Humans can be the weakest link. Humans can be your greatest asset. In the US, the workforce really is split 50-50 between male and female. And in technology and in cyber, that's about 20%. That's nowhere near where we need to be from a technology perspective or from a cyber perspective.
It is unfortunately a male-dominated industry. It cannot stay a male-dominated industry if we want to keep evolving. To Margarita's point, the diversity and even really the neurodiversity, because women do think differently and do see things from a different mindset versus males, brings a lot of enhancements to the field that can very much help keep us, not just keep pace, but really push us forward to evolving.
Hey there, and welcome to the latest episode of the Black Hat Files, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of cybersecurity. My name's Richard Dean. I'm a journalist. It's my pleasure to host this episode. So let's crack open the latest file, and I'm delighted to say it is a special Miami edition of the Black Hat Files. Let's welcome our guest today. First of all, Margarita Rivera, Global Chief Information Security Officer, Carnival Corporation in Miami. Hey, Margarita.
Hello there, Miami edition. Wow. Now you know it's going to be a fun podcast.
I was going to say Miami Vice. It would have been a cliche, perhaps inappropriate. But also from Miami, Marcos Marrero, Chief Information Security Officer at H.I.G Capital. How are you, Marcos?
I'm doing well. And it may be a caliente podcast.
Okay.
He doesn't speak Spanish.
Hablo español, por favor.
Well, you see, yes, it does.
A little bit.
Let's stick to English.
Okay.
Absolutely.
But it's good to have you both here. But you do know each other from the kind of you say there's a bit of a CISO Miami mafia.
Absolutely. I'm not Miami mafia, because that sounds, a little dark there. But yeah, there's definitely a CISO community in Miami, which Marcos and I are a part of, leading and, really helping to grow and network and do activities and development for our community. So we know each other from there.
Okay, cool. I've insulted you twice now, Vice and Mafia, so I'm going to stick to the straight and narrow now. You are good. You are fine, upstanding people. You are not the bad guys. You are the good guys.
We protect.
You do protect. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, you're in Miami, but we're here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, for Black Hat Middle East and Africa 2025. My question to you, Margarita, first of all, is about events. You go to quite a lot of events. You're selective about the ones you go to. What separates, from your perspective, the good from the great events that are the ones that are worth going to, the ones that are worth going back to?
Sure. So I would say Black Hat MEA has ruined it for all of us, but in a good way. This is definitely one that you want to attend. It's very different. The great events have great speakers, have great content, really have a lot of thought that's put into the quality of the information that's going to be shared and the dynamics of, the personalities that are going to come together in panels and who's available from vendors and partners. And really, Black Hat has been just amazing here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. You have the top of the top and you have folks from all over the world. It's truly a blend of such diverse culture and thought. It's been incredible. I mean, those events that typically you want to stay away from, don't put in the amount of detail that we've seen here this week. And I'm actually very sad that it's coming to an end. It's going to be very hard for me to go to any event after this.
Kind words. Marcos, your perspective, again, you've been to a lot of these events. What for you is the secret sauce that makes you think, yeah, it's worth me getting on a plane. It's worth that effort to go there?
So I'll add two things to the content piece, which is the logistics and the organization of the event, but also the curated, aspect of the content, plus also the individuals that are attending. This is now in my top 3. Just like Margarita said, it is one that I will look forward to attending because every single day has been insightful. You've learned something new. You've seen a topic that maybe you have not seen before at any other conference or any other event. So those would be the 3 main areas that I say will definitely separates Black Hat MIA from all the other ones. Okay, well, let's look at the substance, some of the things that have been discussed over the past 3 days or so. AI, certainly, that is the here and now, but more and more talk about quantum computing. Be prepared for quantum computing. What's your take, Margarita?
So definitely be prepared. I think it's one of the things that we see the most in our industry where our folks are more reactive rather than proactive. And even with AI that has been around for such a long time, at the onset of what we're seeing now, the momentum, everything at breakneck speed, we're seeing that the security community is still somewhat trying to catch up from a security perspective. And we know quantum computing is here. It's coming. It's been going to become more proliferal, more pervasive, just like we see AI. And we really have to be more proactive in the way that we look at that. So a lot of the sessions that we've had here throughout this week has really talked about, quantum computing and how do you prepare and how do you become that forward-thinking CISO and security practitioner. So you start building in those practices. So you start thinking about the controls. So you start thinking how that relates to your organization. So I love the fact that we are being proactive in our thought process, because historically we've been a very reactive type of industry where something new comes out, it disrupts, and we're trying to catch up. When we know that the threat actors, they're being very proactive in their way of how they're going to leverage and use these new groundbreaking disruptive technologies in order to affect organizations.
Quantum computing does scare, well, quantum computing doesn't scare me. The bad guys getting quantum computing does scare me. And Marcos, looking at your world, at H.I.G, it's a finance company, $70 billion, I think, assets under management. Yep. And one of the big threats that quantum computing potentially holds is cryptography, breaking passwords in very, very simple terms. I worry about that. Am I right to worry, or am I overly concerned?
You are in all you're right to worry about it. And it's funny, and I smiled when you said quantum, because that is literally off of the keynote that I just came off of, the one topic or technology that we are not talking about as an industry. I've spent the better part of about the last 2 years continuously talking about quantum. My internal team from security operations are working on quantum computing resistant cryptography, because the world will change once quantum computing enters the private sector. Let's make no mistake about it. Nation states have access to it now. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But when it becomes democratized and it's now available to the public, that is when we're going to start seeing a lot of bigger problems, because all of the data hoarding out of all the data breaches over the last 10 years is now going to be data that you can read and data that becomes actionable to threat actors and also to intelligence agencies.
Well, that reminds me, Margarita Rivera, to pick up on that, of something you wrote on LinkedIn recently. You said, we talk a lot about threat actors leveling up, but honestly, so are CISOs.
You have no choice in this industry. I mean, as CISOs, technologists in general, you have to be continuously learning, continuously growing, continuously preparing yourself. Because as I mentioned before, technology is changing quite quickly, and learning and being able to thwart attacks is going to take folks that are willing to put in the time to learn and to grow and to prepare themselves and their teams. I think one of the things that we're facing as CISOs today is the upskilling of our teams. We can't approach security with 10-year-old tactics or 10-year-old approaches or mindsets. We have to continue to evolve. It's what I love the most about this industry. And you're seeing a lot of CISOs take the time to develop themselves and to develop their teams to be able to prepare for things like quantum computing and other technologies.
How do you prepare for quantum computing? It's a question to both of you, because it is a very cutting-edge technology. CISOs cannot be expected to have in-depth knowledge of precisely how quantum computing works. I guess that's not the point. So what resources do you use? Who do you work with? Do you work with universities, for example? Do you work with industry bodies? Question to both of you.
I'd say it's a combination of all of them. You have to work, number one, as an organization, and you're wanting to become quantum resistant, work with your vendors. Because at the end of the day, all of your vendors and your service providers have implemented some level of quantum or some level of cryptography that is not quantum resistant. So you need to upgrade all of that cryptography protocols that you utilize to become quantum resistant. But to understand quantum computing at its real fundamental level, and I agree with you, it is a very complex topic when you start talking about qubits and whatnot. Definitely the research community, universities, and also your local bodies within countries. So NIST in the US, for example, has a lot of materials and a lot of resources that really lays out quantum computing in layman's terms.
Correct. I completely agree with Marcos. I mean, there's a wealth of information that is out there. And obviously, the foundation of it being on encryption, having folks on your team that are well-versed and understanding that, it's kind of taking that to like the next layer, the next level. So partnering definitely with network communities, with universities, with peers. I mean, coming to events like this and hearing from other thought leaders and how they're approaching things like quantum computing and how they're leveling up really does help that growth curve.
How are the vendors doing? You mentioned vendors, Marcos. How are they doing in creating quantum resistant solutions? Can I ask you for, maybe it's unfair to ask you for what grade would you give them? I'm going to ask you. You don't have to answer. What grade would you give
Let's
the
throw
vendors?
it out there. Let's ask.
Okay,
You can
what
answer
grade
first.
would you give them?
Probably somewhere around the D minus, to
D
be honest
plus.
with.
Wow.
Yeah. I've started asking vendors over the last 8 to 9 months, what quantum computing controls or tactics have you implemented within your platforms to shift the cryptography that is not towards quantum resistant? And I get blank stares. Wait, what? Well, okay, conversation's over. If that's the first answer you give me. However, there are a few vendors, and I will not name exactly which one, that are at the forefront of quantum computing.
So they've been getting an A or a B, would they?
They've been getting an A plus in my book. Because they are forward-looking, forward-thinking, and they're coming to me before I even ask them.
I completely agree. I mean, you have some that, again, are very proactive, but most tend to lag behind. They don't see it as an immediate problem. There is, again, this boom around AI security and really putting in the guardrails and the observability and controls around it. Not as much focus on quantum, but those that are doing it well.
Okay, well, let me flip the question around.
Sure.
When you go to your chief finance officers and ask for budget to be signed off to pay for this, let's take your A-plus vendor, who you're not going to name, but fair enough. I'm sure they charge a significant fee for what they do. They're very good at it.
If I can name them, I will name them. Not sure if we can or cannot, but they are definitely A+ in my book. But sorry.
But they will charge a fee for that. And you've got to go to you and people like you have got to go to the finance department, the CFO, and say, okay, we've got to be quantum resistant. It's not here yet, but it's there in the future. And it's going to cost X million dollars. And the CFO goes, well, this is a theoretical threat. It's not really, the bad guys haven't got this now. Do I really need to spend this money now, Marcos? Are you sure? I need to sign off on this?
Yes, because, I'm sorry, this A+ vendor is coming to me with the evidence that I'm taking to my CFO, showing here's why you need to do this now. This is not theoretical anymore. This is happening. It's just it's so expensive to be able to utilize quantum computing that it's not available to the masses. That's the problem.
Let's talk about some other things. Leadership shift from compliance to culture was an interesting piece I read by you, Marcos, on LinkedIn. You said there needs to be a leadership shift within your industry, within CISOs and others, part of the ecosystem, from compliance to culture. What do you mean by that and why is it important?
So compliance has always been a check the box exercise. I need to have XYZ, so I need to buy ABC that's going to take care of XYZ. That does not make us secure. At the end of the day, risk is a moving target. Risk is ever evolving. Risk is something that is not, it's not something you can find a solution for by just buying XYZ or whatnot. That is what compliance really takes you toward. So when you shift toward culture where everyone is in a risk mindset within your organization, that's when you start moving away from compliance and to a cultural risk shift. So now risk becomes something that's at the forefront of all your individuals. I say that I have the largest the largest department in the entire organization. Every single employee works for me. And I get stares and looks like, what are you talking about? Yeah, every single employee is a human firewall for me. Every single employee is at the front lines of all of the emails that come in, all of the messages, all of the potential cyber risks that they can be dealing with. So when you shift your culture toward having cyber risk at the forefront, you become much stronger as an organization.
But you guys know each other well through the Miami community, and I'm wondering, very different industries. The hospitality industry with Carnival, the financial services industry with H.I.G, very different. What are the differences and what are the similarities in what you do, would you say?
So I always say that from a cybersecurity perspective, we're not quite that different. I mean, when you look behind everything, what we're trying to do is very similar. Our foundations are similar. You know, we're all having to tackle identity, we're having to tackle observability, we're having to tackle security operations, engineering, architecture, artificial intelligence. That's all the same. I think that we have to get a little bit more creative depending on your industry. I mean, you're in a very regulated industry, financial services. My first decade of my career was in financial services, so it's very near and dear to my heart. But I'm in hospitality, where people want to have fun. And security can be seen as a blocker to fun. So I have to be incredibly creative in terms of the approach that I have with cybersecurity within my organization, especially because I am essentially securing floating cities. I mean, I have 94 floating cities across the globe, and we are tackling all kinds of different things, from restaurants to hotels to medical to the operational technology. That's where the differences, I think, come in. What are your thoughts?
Agreed. We all have the same base level of threats and risks that we need to address. It's no different across any other industry. Then as you go up that ladder, then it becomes a bit more specialized in each area. Margarita has ships she has to secure. I have portfolio companies that I need to secure. And these portfolio companies can be in any industry. You name it, we own it.
But it's interesting to go back to your point, Marcos, about everybody in the organization works for me. Given what you are at H.I.G, I would imagine a relatively small workforce. That's typically the case with alternative asset managers,
Yes.
which I think I'm right in describing you as.
Yes.
However, with Carnival hospitality industry, you've got massive workforces. And we often hear the cliche, or journalists like me use the cliche, humans are the weakest link in any security chain. You've just got different HR issues there, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a different approach and a different driver, but nonetheless equally as important. So humans can be the weakest link. Humans can be your greatest asset. It really all depends on the job that we're doing, with our teams to provide security awareness, to make everybody understand their responsibility and making that culture pervasive throughout everything that we do.
Finally, before we wrap up, let me ask you about the role of women in this industry. I've been lucky here at Black Hat Middle East and Africa 2025 to meet a number of very powerful women in very senior CISO positions, whether here in Saudi Arabia or in Europe or in the United States. And there's yourself as well. And perhaps that's given me a false impression that women play a very prominent role in this industry. You say it's about 20%, Margarita.
That's correct. So what I love about being here at Black Hat is definitely being able to see all my women peers, very strong executives in the cyberspace. I remember when I started 22 years ago, I was the only woman in a room. And now to see much more is great, but it's nowhere where it needs to be. In the US, the workforce really is split 50-50 between male and female. And in technology and in cyber, that's about 20%. That's nowhere near where we need to be from a technology perspective or from a cyber perspective. So it's very encouraging to come here and see everything that's being done in order to really help extend information and knowledge and growth to other women. The first thing I did when I got here the other day was go to the Women in Saudi Arabia group. I was so proud to spend time talking to those women that are growing and really helping get the word out. And they're really helping to grow an industry that needs more women in it. That's the reality. Women think differently. They function differently. Marcos and I were actually talking about that during our drive yesterday.
Yep.
There's so much value to that cognitive difference because we are built different and it complements our male counterparts.
Marcos, you're nodding.
It is unfortunately a male-dominated industry, and it cannot stay a male-dominated industry if we want to keep evolving. To Margarita's point, the diversity and even really the neurodiversity, because women do think differently and do see things from a different mindset versus males, brings a lot of enhancements to the field that can very much help keep us, not just keep pace, but really push us forward to evolving as threats continue evolving. And that all at the end of the day puts us in a good place.
So Marcos, your one line to summarize Black Hat MEA here in Riyadh 2025.
One line that summarizes Black Hat MEA Saudi Arabia 2025 will be innovative and refreshing.
Why do you say that?
Innovative because of the level of caliber of individuals and content, but refreshing because it's not the same content and the same caliber of the other conferences we're used to attending. This is much better.
So Margarita, your one line to summarize Black Hat MEA here in Saudi Arabia 2025.
So one line to really summarize Black Hat MEA here in Saudi Arabia is definitely collaboration, forward thinking, and innovation.
Why do you say that?
It brought together so many folks from all over the world to work together, to think together, to plan together. And that's incredible. That's really where you get true innovation, is where you have diverse ways of thinking coming together in one place and really being able to collaborate together holistically.
We are going to wrap this up now. We're speaking here in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, December 2025. We're recording this at the conclusion of Black Hat Middle East and Africa for 2025. Crystal balls 2026, 30 seconds each of you. What's going to keep you busiest in 2026? Margarita first.
Definitely agentic AI security. I think we're going to see a lot more proliferation, and preparedness for quantum computing is definitely on the docket.
Marcos, same question.
So same answer, just flipped. Quantum computing first because we've already initiated that project, but then also trying to hoard all of the AI folks in the organization that just want to run off with AI because it's going to solve all the world's problems.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to both of you. Thank you very much indeed for bringing a little piece of Miami to Riyadh in Saudi Arabia this week. My thanks to, first of all, Margarita Rivera, Global Chief Information Security Officer at Carnival Corporation. Thank you. And to Marcos Marrero, Chief Information Security Officer, H.I.G. Capital. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Or should I say gracias?
Gracias.
Gracias.
That is it for this edition of the Black Hat Files. We will be back with more. Thanks for joining us.